Your contract is your business speaking for you. It is a living, breathing document that, when written correctly, is not only a legal binding document, but it is something that will create a roadmap and impart confidence both for you and for your clients. Hello, my name is Andrea Eppolito. I am a Las Vegas-based wedding planner, and today we are going to talk about writing a contract that is effective for your business. Now, I am not a lawyer. I am not able to give you legal information, but in this session, I am going to walk you through what is included in my contract, why it is so important, and why I recommend that you add it to yours. So first things first, again, your contract is your business speaking for you. It's not just about the legalese protection. It is a roadmap for how you are going to do the things that you are supposed to do. It is also your opportunity to show that you really have seen and heard your couple in a very meaningful way. And so the contract should start with a very detailed client overview. It should start with your understanding of the wedding. During a consultation, I take a tremendous amount of notes. And when I sit down to write my contract, the first thing that I do is put those notes together in the form of a story. I start with the very broad strokes, the date or the time of year that we're going to be executing the wedding. I add things like the guest count, and then I move in and I really talk about my couple's priorities. I talk about their why. Why are they hosting this wedding? What is it about this experience that is so important to them? What's their matrix for success? And I include any specific details that we discussed, everything from the potential color scheme, the production level, the overall vision. By doing this, I am able to let my couple know that they are not one of many, that they are one of one. It gives me an opportunity to mirror back everything that we talked about in the consultation, and it gives them the opportunity to both understand my intent and to make sure that we are completely in alignment. The second thing that I go through in my contract is the process of wedding planning. Now, my process is unbreakable. I outline it in very, very specific detail. You wouldn't frost a cake before you bake it. And so this is my opportunity to explain to my couple how I do my best work. Now, in my contract, that begins with location services and the venue. I explain to them that I will arrange for them to see by appointment anywhere from 2 to 4 potential venues. I want to make sure that the venue we select is actually capable of allowing us to execute the wedding that they really and truly want. It allows me to identify pain points, potentially unknown costs, whether or not we're going to have additional time to set up or to break down. And even if my couple has already selected their venue, venue and location services is so important because I still need to know what the parameters are, what I can do, and what I can't do at a certain location. The next step, once we've identified the venue, is to start working on long lead items that are not necessarily guest count specific. These are things like photography, videography, entertainment. I start with these because, number one, we don't need a final guest count in order to go through these options. And number two, while going through this process, I'm able to really study and understand my couple. I figure out how they see the world. I get to dive deeper into the priorities. I understand how much money we're going to be spending on each area, when, and why. And then when I fully understand who I'm designing for, who I am planning for. That's when we move into design services. And I explain in my contract, design is not simply how something looks. It is also very much how it feels, how it works, the logistical capabilities that go into building out and setting up a wedding. After I detail design services, I then move into production and execution. Now, a lot of people say, like, a planner themselves doesn't produce anything. I'm not making flowers, I'm not setting rooms. But what I am doing is working on the production side with my partners. I'm working to make sure that we've had the right flowers. I'm working to make sure that we've selected the right chair. I'm working to make sure that we do, in fact, have enough chargers. This also goes to things like menu selection, setting up a tasting, building out the timeline, and then being on site to make sure that every single thing that needs to happen happens. So by walking them through my process, I remove that level of uncertainty. I let the client know this is how I work. This is what you can expect from me. And this is the way that we need to frame all of our decision making, because if we pick floral before venue, that doesn't make sense. If we're choosing music before we know whether we're indoor or out, we don't really have a full understanding of sound. If we start designing and we don't have a date, then the seasonality may not make sense to the story that we're trying to tell. And so, walking people through your process, outlining what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how is incredibly important. And it leads us to the next section of the wedding planning contract, which is an outline of deliverables. I let my clients know exactly what they can expect from me, when, and how it is going to impact their experience. So at the time of writing the contract, I let them know that there are going to be a series of deliverables that they can expect to receive. The first deliverable is services. Now, when you start wedding planning, you and your clients may not know exactly what they are going to need from you. And so I have an attachment that is called services, and I outline a list of services that would be included as requested by the client, as determined in need by me. Now, some wedding planners will plan the welcome party and they'll plan the brunch, and it's included in the planning process. Others are only focused on the wedding, and if you want them to take a shoulder date experience, there's an additional cost. And so my services agreement has everything from creating the budget, creating the timeline, doing the design deck, building out a website, handling RSVPs, vendor selection, partner negotiation, contract negotiation, room blocks, welcome party, reception, all of the things that I believe fall under my area of expertise go into this contract as attachment A, and it becomes a part of our agreement. This is a great way to go through all of the different touch points that you may have with your clients. And when you review it with them, they can turn around and say, I'm not going to need this. I don't want you handling RSVPs. I don't want you handling the website, but I would really appreciate it if you could handle the Sunday brunch. I would really appreciate it if you could help do gift bags. And so by having a list of services that you go through, it will help you determine your scope of work. It will help your client understand what you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for. And it will allow you to have those conversations before you start the process, so everybody is on the same page. Now, some people say to me, okay, well, what services potentially aren't included? For me, I don't include steaming the dress and or steaming the bridesmaids' dresses. Why? Because my clients have such couture pieces, and I don't feel properly qualified to handle that material in a way that is going to be in their best interest. And so one of the items that we talk about is Do we want to hire a dresser? Do we want to hire a steamer? How can we handle that in advance? And if the client really does want me to take responsibility for it, we talk about the ways in which we can do that effectively. The second attachment that we walk through is a comprehensive budget. Now, when I submit a budget for review to a client, there are 4 columns that are outlined on that budget. The first one is our entry point. This is the minimum spend that I believe the client needs to make in order to do the thing that they want the way that they want it. Now, obviously, there's a huge range of budgets out there. You can get a florist for $7,000, you can get a florist for $70,000. After going through what my client really wants, after understanding them in a meaningful way, I'm able to say at an entry point, you may be spending $70,000 on florals, you may be spending an upgraded amount of like $85,000, $90,000, or we could go as high as maybe $200,000. So there's the entry level, there's the upgrade, and then there's the real big upgrade. I go through each one of these, every line item, everywhere we may spend money, and I outline entry level, mid, and high for venue, photo, video, floral, rental, lighting, photo booth, transportation, hair and makeup. Everything is listed on the budget. And so they can see at the start, my wedding could cost X amount. It could also go all the way up to Z. And then the fourth section of this budget is what I believe to be the best guest. Now, a budget is just a list of priorities with a number attached. And so we work through it together. And I say, you want the food to be good, but you don't need it to be crazy Michelin star. So I think we're going to end up with this number for food. I know how much you care about photography. And so we're going to be pulling from the more expensive set of photographers that meet your needs. We're going to be pulling from a mid-range video, from a high-end DJ, and I take them step by step through every section. And that line becomes the guiding principle for what I believe they are going to spend on their wedding. I review it with the client signs it, and that attachment becomes a part of our contract. So every single element that we are doing that the client has to review and sign almost becomes an addendum. After we have done the list of services, after we have done the budget, the next document that they can expect to receive, attachment C, if you will, is going to be the design deck. Design is not just how it looks and feels, it's how it works and how every element comes together to tell a story. And that design deck could include anything from images sourced from the web, handwritten sketches, mood boards, AI renderings, floor plans. It can include a set list from the DJ, a play or don't play list from the band, a series of images that outline and detail the different shades of pink that we may be choosing from. And together, when you pull in all of these details, oftentimes coming in the form of agreements that we make with our vendors, that becomes attachment C. That is our design deck. That is the place that we are working and the vision that we are all working towards. And last but not least is attachment D. Attachment D is the timeline. This is the roadmap. This is the Bible. It is the document that every single person on our team is going to refer to in order to make sure that on the wedding day, what we are doing is done well, that we're working in concert and in unison, that there's no friction behind the scenes, and that every single person knows what they're producing, how they're performing, when, where, and why. By including this outline in my contract, I am letting my clients know you can trust me because I have thought of everything. This is the framework. This is what I do in order to do my best work to produce the wedding that you want produced. And that is so incredibly important. Now, there are other things that I include in my contract that I highly recommend everyone considers putting in theirs. Now, the first is a communication and conduct clause. A lot of people refer to this as the bridezilla clause, making sure that we understand how we're going to communicate with one another effectively and respectfully. It makes sure that we as creatives, we as experts, are not being mistreated. That yes, we are here to serve you, but we are not servants to be treated in anything less than a professional manner. I have to say, I don't have this issue with my couples. I am incredibly fortunate. I work with the most amazing people. And so my conduct and communication clause isn't necessarily a bridezilla clause. It's not saying you have to be nice to me or else. What it does instead is it sets up a framework for communication and effective decision making. My communication and conduct clause really says that I am going to be producing information for you. I'm going to present options. I'm going to present referrals, design, photo selections, video selections. All of these things are going to come to you. And I require that you respond to me in 72 hours to make a material decision. Now, this stops us from bottlenecking. If I've done my job right, if we've done our jobs correctly as a planner, then we have narrowed the scope. We have focused in on what it is that our clients really want. And at this point, we should just simply be producing. You wanted a photography team that would do this amount of hours, that would deliver X numbers of pictures, that's going to be able to edit in this style within this budget range. Here are the two photographers that we have found. And now the client has 72 hours to make a decision. Why is this important? Because if the client doesn't make a decision in a timely manner, then the vendor may no longer be available. Pricing could change, availability could change, and you get bottlenecked, you get stuck. And so, what my contract clearly states is if I ask you for a material decision, you have 72 hours to provide me with that. If you don't, all other steps in our process have to stop. We can't jump from we're looking at photographers to, oh, wait, we have to make a decision about a save the date. Oh, wait, did we ever go back to photographers? No. By making sure that we are going step by step, making the decisions that I believe are most important in a timely manner, I am protecting my clients. I'm protecting them from themselves. I'm protecting them from the market. I'm protecting them from a potential loss. And I am making sure that nothing gets missed. In addition to decision making, this clause also covers payments. We are not going to pay our vendors late. You can't put off when someone asks you for a deposit because without that deposit, the contract isn't fully executed. And so conduct and communication, yes, talks about mutual respect. Yes, it talks about how we're going to treat one another, but it also talks about decision making, payments, and what is needed participation wise from the client so that I can do my best work. It also outlines to the client what they can expect from me, the manner in which I will communicate, whether that is by phone, by text, by DM. Am I going to be writing them emails? Is a text message sufficient in order to make a decision? How long will it take me to respond to someone? If I'm going on vacation, I let all of my clients know in advance I'm going to be on vacation. During these dates, you can expect that I will not be able to respond to you in 24 hours. I need a 48-hour response time. Now, there's no place in the world that we go without internet, without phones. We should all be able to be accessible for really big decisions and emergencies. But as creatives, we also need downtime. And so by outlining conduct and communication, you are not only having your client commit to how they will interact with you, but you are also letting them know that you've thought of everything and you have a plan for how you are going to communicate with them. Another element that I think is so important to include in our contract is a model release and a photo release. We as creatives, our job is, yes, taking care of our clients, and no client, no couple wants to feel like their wedding is simply a styled shoot. But the pictures, the videos, that becomes our portfolio. That becomes our collateral. It is the thing that we use to market ourselves. And so I do include a model release in my contract where the couple agrees to allow me to use photos of them. Of course, that they can select. If there's a photo of a bride that she hates, I'm never going to use it. If the groom doesn't like the way he looks in a certain angle, I'm not going to use that. But it does allow me to share their images. It also gives me usage for the detail shots. And if a client does not want me to use their images in my portfolio, if we're in a situation where there is an NDA, at the very least, I am able to negotiate either the ability to bring in my own photo team prior to doors opening so that I can get the detail shots I need with no mention of the couple, with none of their own images used, or I'm able to turn around and say, okay, if I can't use the images, then there is a fee that is applied. It can be 10%, it can be 15%, but make no mistake, as a creative, the inability to show your work has a cost to your business because you can't use it as an example to show future clients what it is you're capable of. There's another section that I have that talks about vendor selection and partner selection. Now, this is where I let my clients know that yes, of course, the selection of vendors is ultimately within your hands. But as the expert, my job is to go through all of the vendors available to you all across the world, narrow it down to the ones that I know and I believe will do their best work, not just for you, but for the entire team. I know that this videographer doesn't necessarily get along with this photographer. And so if we have them both on the same project, there might be friction. I know that this florist is always going to bring extra product, that they're always going to have extra people, and that they're always going to be available and on site throughout the evening to take care of something if it breaks, if it falls, if anything, God forbid, happens, if a bride loses her bouquet. And so I am telling you that I am going to recommend vendors for you to select from. And that if you find a vendor that you are interested in, that I don't personally know, that I can choose to vet them and decide whether or not I am comfortable with them on the team. This is where the collaboration between the couple and the planner really matters. At this stage, the hope is that your couple trusts you enough that they understand that you are the expert and that they allow you to guide them through this process. But if a couple is insistent on using someone that you, as the planner, do not believe can deliver, that you fear that there is going to be an issue, if there's an ethical issue, if there's a pricing issue, if there's a billing issue, you need to have the ability to either have your responsibility for that vendor waived or to walk away from the event with no rights or responsibility attached in the future. Now, this part seems crazy, but this leads us into a cancellation clause. A client always has the right to cancel an event at any time and for any reason. But the planner also needs to reserve the right to walk away from a project should they feel at any time that they cannot do their best work. There have been times where I have had to fire a client or step away from a project. There have been times where we've reached a point where a client and I have looked at each other and they've said, this isn't really working. And so they need an exit, I need an exit. And so there should be a cancellation section in your contract that really explains if a client is not happy, what steps will they do to terminate the contract? What rights and responsibilities do they have? For example, any money paid up to the date of cancellation is money earned and is not refundable from the planner to the couple because the planner has done all this work up front. What happens if the planner walks away? What amount of money, if any, are they willing to give back? Are they going to allow their design to be used without them? I personally don't allow anyone to use my design without me being there to execute it because I don't trust that another planner or another production team would properly execute my vision the way that it needs to be executed. But whatever it is that you determine is in your cancellation clause should be outlined in great detail. Now, after that, everything is about legalese, and that is something that I personally cannot give you guidance on because I'm not a lawyer, I'm a wedding planner. And so, what I would suggest is that you do not use a form contract that you find on the internet. Maybe you start with that. Maybe you download something just so that you can read and understand what you should be including. But ultimately, it is your responsibility to find a local attorney. Now, this attorney should walk you through every single page of your contract. They should let you know what is enforceable within your state, what is not enforceable within your state. Your attorney should be able to explain to you in layman's terms every single element and every single clause, whether that is a legalese term, whether it's act of God, whether it's force majeure, whether it is cancellations, money, collections, communication. Your attorney should be able to explain it to you so that you can have a comprehensive understanding for your own self, but also so that you can communicate that to your clients when you are walking them through the contract. Always have a lawyer, bless it. It is such a worthwhile investment. You can put the name of the lawyer who has reviewed your contract on your contract, and then in the case of a God forbid, if there is ever any legal question that comes up, you have a touch point, you have a support system, and you have someone there that can help guide you through the process should you ever find yourself in the middle of a payment dispute, a lawsuit, a breach of contract, or anything else that makes you feel uncomfortable. Our clients hire us to be the experts. We as professionals need to have a team of experts working for us as well. Your contract is a living, breathing document. It needs to be updated every year. You, as the wedding planner, need to understand it. You need to use it to speak to your clients as a business. And it is the one thing that you should be able to refer to from the day that you offer it until the minute you close out that contract to ensure that you have done your very, very best work. I hope that this has been both interesting and educational for you. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can always reach me at Andrea Eppolito on Instagram and at www.andreaeppolito.com. Thank you so much, and we will talk again soon.